Good morning, afternoon, or evening. How y'all doing today? Welcome back to Mr. Morrow's Algebra 1 and 2 class. Today we're going to be talking about fraction and decimal operations, part 1. We're going to focus solely on fraction operations. Now, I know that you've been learning about fractions for many, many years, but sometimes it just doesn't click. So hopefully today I can make everything click for you guys. Please remember that we've already discussed the conversions between fractions, decimals, and percents. We've also already learned about equivalent fractions. You're going to need those skills today. So if you are a little shaky with those skills or need a reminder or a refresher, please go ahead and see my video titled Fractions, Decimals, and Percents, Part 1 and 2. So let's get to it, my friends. First, going to talk about reducing fractions to lowest terms. This is kind of something we already learned because it entails using equivalent fractions. And what happens when you're reducing fractions to lowest terms is very simple. Simply divide both the numerator and denominator by the same number until the GCF between the numerator and denominator is 1. So it's pretty simple. We're going to use equivalent fractions. We're going to change the appearance of the fraction, but not the value. Okay? And that's simply done by dividing the same number to both the numerator and the denominator. So let's just a few examples. Okay, number 1, 12/40. Well, I know that 12 is divisible by 4, and so is 40. So I can divide both 12 and 40 by 4 over 4, which will give me 3/10. And I do not have any other common factors, so I cannot go any further. That is reduced fully to lowest terms. 5 and 15/35. Don't worry about the 5. The 5 is a whole number, so go ahead and pull that guy aside right now. However, the 15 and the 35, they are both divisible by 5. So I'm going to divide the numerator and the denominator by 5, giving me 5 and 3/7. That would be my answer for that, reduced to lowest terms. 7/56. Well, I know that 7 goes into both 7 and 56. So if I divide both the numerator and denominator by 7, my reduced fraction will be 1/8. And last but not least, first of all, we have 3 and 50/30. Immediately, I'm going to get rid of this 0 because I can divide 10 to both top and bottom. So that gives me 3 and 5/3. Now, this is technically not a mixed number because I have a whole number with an improper fraction. So I have to simplify this part of the improper fraction first. And this 5/3 becomes 1 and 2/3. Well, 1 and 2/3 plus the 3 whole to begin with, I have 4 and 2/3, and that is reduced to lowest terms. Okay, I could have also done it this way. All right, let's say that I didn't get rid of the zeros. I could have just had my 3 aside, okay, plus 30 goes into 50 one whole time, and there's 20 left over out of the 30. Now I can get rid of my zeros, and I'm still going to be left with 4 and 2/3. Okay, so simplifying fractions, we're going to need that pretty much for the rest of your mathematical career. Now, let's talk about adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. But the first type we're going to talk about is when they have like denominators, when the denominators are the same. And when this occurs, when the denominators of the fractions or mixed numbers, okay, are the same, simply add or subtract the numerators and whole numbers, if any, and keep the same denominator. So if they have the same denominator, you add the numerators, keep the same denominator, and then you add or subtract the whole number at the end if you have a mixed number. And the second step here, reduce your answer to lowest terms. You always want to reduce fractions and or mixed numbers to lowest terms. Okay, so for example 2 here, let's evaluate each. Express answers in simplest fraction or mixed number form. Well, I have 2/5 plus 1/5. The denominators are the same, so I simply add the numerators and keep the same denominator. I cannot reduce that. I am done. Number 2, 4/12 minus 2/12. Well, I have the same denominator, so I can subtract the numerators, and I keep the same denominator, but I can reduce this. They're both even numbers, so they're divisible by 2 over 2, dividing 2 to both the numerator and denominator, and my answer is 1/6. Number 3, I got 3 11s plus 6 11s. Well, the denominators are the same, so I can add the numerators and keep the denominator. It's 9 11s. 3/8 minus 2/8. The denominators are the same, so I can subtract the numerators. 3 minus 2 is 1 over the original denominator of 8. And for number 5, we got some mixed numbers here. We got 18 and 24 30-seconds minus 7 and 16 20-seconds. If you want to, you can go ahead and write mixed numbers vertically if it makes your life easier. If you can see the process easier, then I have no problem with that. The whole point is for you to learn. Now, I always deal with the fractions first, then I deal with the whole numbers. So since I have the denominators of 32, I can go ahead and start adding or subtracting now. And 24 minus 16 is 8 over the original denominator of 32. And 18 minus 7 is 11. I can reduce this because I can divide 8 to both the numerator and the denominator, giving me an answer of 11 and 1/4. And last but not least, 3 and 5/6 plus 2 and 5/6. Well, if I go 3 and 5/6 plus 2 and 5/6, this gives me 5 and 10/6. I can go ahead and reduce the 10/6 by dividing both sides by 2 over 2, both the numerator and denominator, which will give me 5 and 5/3. But again, I have this improper fraction with a whole number. I can't have that. So let's go ahead and convert this improper fraction to a mixed number. 5/3, 3 goes into 5 one time with 2/3 left over. So 1 whole plus 5 wholes gives me 6 and 2/3. And I am completely simplified and done. So that's adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers with like denominators. Now, what occurs when you have unlike denominators? Well, when you have unlike denominators, the following occurs. You're going to, first of all, find the LCD, that's the least common denominator of the fractions or mixed numbers being added or subtracted. Now, the LCD is the same thing as the LCM, except it's a denominator. The LCM is just a whole number. The LCD is a denominator. So you're going to find the LCD of the fractions or mixed numbers being added or subtracted. When in doubt, multiply the denominators of the fractions or mixed numbers being added or subtracted to find at least a common denominator. Let me explain that real quick, okay? If I had, let's say, 1/6 plus whatever, 3/7, okay? Let's just say that you can't figure out the LCD. Please don't stress. Worst case scenario, 6 times 7 is 42. So it's not your LCD maybe, but you do know that you will have a common denominator, in this case, equal to 42. If you do find the LCD, it's going to make your life a lot easier at the end when you're reducing your answer to simplest terms. If you don't have the LCD and you just have a common denominator, that's fine. You're going to get to the same place, but you just have to reduce a little bit more at the end. So it's always best to find the LCD, but it's not a requirement. Again, if you're stuck, when in doubt, just multiply the denominators together, and that will be your common denominator. Now, okay, so number 2. Once you have the LCD, or at least a common denominator, go ahead and convert each fraction or mixed number using equivalent fractions. And then step 3, of course, add or subtract the numerators and keep the same denominator first, then add or subtract the whole numbers, and last but not least, simplify the fraction or mixed number to lowest terms. So let's check it out. Okay, so for example 3, evaluate each express answers in simplest fraction or mixed number form. Awesome. Let's do it. I have 1/2 plus 3/5. First thing I always want to do is find my LCD. So my LCD in this case, oh, sorry about that. My LCD in this case is 10. So how do I work this? I like to make my life as easy as possible. So I'm going to show you what I do in my head. I know that this 2 has to become a 10, and this 5 has to become a 10, and they're being added together. So I ask myself, what did I multiply to 2 to get to 10? Well, I multiplied 5. And remember that whenever you're changing fractions using equivalent fractions, you have to multiply the same number to the denominator and the numerator. So I'm going to multiply 5 to both numerator and denominator, giving me 5/10. 3/5. How do I get that 5 to 10? What did I multiply to that 5 to get to 10? I multiplied by 2. So I have to multiply 2 to both the numerator and the denominator, giving me 6/10. Now I have the common denominator. Now I can add. 5/10 plus 6/10 is 11/10, which will equal 1 1/10 as a simplest mixed number form. Number 2, 5/7 minus 2/3. I know that my LCD here is going to be 21. So I got to change that 7 to a 21 and that 3 to a 21, and I know I'm subtracting them. So what do I multiply to 7 to get to 21? I multiply 3. I have to multiply 3 to the numerator and the denominator then. So that's 15/21. And then what did I multiply to 3 to get to 21? I had to multiply by 7. So I'm going to multiply 7 to both numerator and denominator, giving me 14/21. And then 15/21 minus 14/21 is 1/21. I cannot simplify that any further. I'm done. 2 2/3 plus 3 1/5. Okay, same procedure here. LCD here is going to equal 15. Now, I like to work with my mixed numbers vertically. So I'm going to write this as 2 2/3 plus 3 1/5. And I know that I'm going to end up with 2 and something over 15, and I'm going to end up with a positive 3 and something over 15. So what did I multiply to 3 to get to 15? I multiplied 5. Well, I have to multiply 5 then to both numerator and denominator, giving me 2 and 10/15. What did I multiply to the 5 and the 3 1/5? What did I multiply to the 5 to get to 15? I multiplied by 3. So I must multiply 3 to both numerator and denominator, giving me 3 and 3/15. Now I can add the fractions and whole numbers. I'm going to first add the fractions. 10/15 plus 3/15 is 13/15. And now I'm going to add the whole numbers. 2 wholes plus 3 wholes is 5. So my reduced mixed number form answer is 5 and 13/15. Okay, number 4. I've got 5 and 2/5 minus 2 and 1/4. I know that my LCD here is going to be 20. So I know that this is going to become 5 and something over 20 minus 2 and something over 20. What did I multiply to 5 to get to 20? I multiplied 4. So that means I must multiply 4 to both numerator and the denominator. What did I multiply to 4 to get to 20? I multiplied by 5. So I know that I have to multiply 5 to both numerator and denominator. Now I have a common denominator. Now I can subtract the fractions and whole numbers. 8/20 minus 5/20 is 3/20. And 5 minus 2 is 3. So my answer is 3 and 3/20. Okay. Now, got 6 and 2/5 minus 3 and 5/6. So my LCD right off the bat is going to be 30. And I got 6 and 2/5 minus 3 and 5/6. And I know this is going to become a 6 and something over 30 minus a 3 and something over 30. So what did I multiply to 5 to get to 30? I multiplied by 6. So I must multiply 6 to both numerator and denominator, giving me 6 and 12/30. What did I multiply to 6 to get to 30 in the denominator? I multiplied by 5. So I must multiply 5 to both numerator and denominator, giving me -3 and 25/30. Now, we got a little bit of a problem here. If I just had a fraction, like 12/30 minus 25/30, there's no problem here. We're going to use the integer rules. When the signs are opposite, you subtract as normal and keep the sign of the largest absolute value. So 25 minus 12 would be 13/30, but there's more negatives than positives, so it would have been a -13/30. It's nice and easy. Okay, negatives, the integer operations work with all rational numbers. However, that's not what's happening here. I just wanted to show you this so you wouldn't get confused, okay? What's happening here is a little bit different. I cannot take 25 away from 12. Now, you may say, well, just make it a negative. You can't, because you have a mixed number. So what happens here is you have to realize, even though I can't take 25 from 12, I can for sure borrow a 1 from this 6, making it a 5, and I can add that 1 to the 12/30. Now, when I'm adding 1, let's go back to I think it was the first day's lesson. Remember that any number divided by itself is 1. Okay? And in order to add fractions, I need common denominators. So I am adding this 1 here, okay? But in the form of 30/30. Why 30/30? Because the common denominator has to be 30. So this now becomes 5 and 42/30 minus 3 and 25/30. And that will give me 42 minus 25 is 17/30. And 5 minus 3 is 2. So I have 2 and 17/30. Okay? Let me go ahead and get this all together for you guys to one little group so I can have space for the next one. All righty. There you go. Okay. Now, let's check out number 6, last but not least. I've got here 4 2/3 minus 1 3/4. My LCD is 12. So I know I'm going to be left with 4 and something over 12. And I'm going to be left with -1 and something over 12. What did I multiply to 3 to get to 12? Well, I multiplied 4, which I have to multiply to both numerator and denominator, giving me 4 and 8/12. What did I multiply to 4 to get to 12? 3. So I have to multiply 3 to both numerator and denominator, giving me -1 and 9/12. But we have the same situation. I cannot take 9 away from 8. Just can't do it. So what do? We're going to borrow. So please pay attention once again. I'm going to borrow 1 from the 4, making it a 3. And I'm going to add that 1 that I borrowed to the 8/12 in the form of 12/12. Please don't stress. Why 12/12? Because I need to add it to 8/12, so I need a common denominator. And 12/12 is equal to 1. So I took the 1 that I borrowed from the 4, and I placed it in the form of 12/12. So now I can have 3 and 20/12 minus 1 and 9/12, which gives me 20/12 minus 9/12 is 11/12, and 3 minus 1 is 2. Bada bing, bada boom. And there it is. Okay, we're almost done. Multiplying and dividing fractions and mixed numbers. Before I even get into anything, I have a big caution here. Be careful. You must convert mixed numbers into improper fractions before multiplying or dividing them. You cannot multiply or divide mixed numbers in the mixed number form, period. It's that simple. Whenever you have to multiply or divide mixed numbers, you have to convert them to improper fractions first, please. Okay, so for multiplying fractions and or mixed numbers, in my opinion, it's way easier than adding or subtracting. You do not have to find a common denominator. In fact, all you have to do is, first of all, convert the fractions or mixed numbers being multiplied into improper fractions if needed, okay? If needed. If you have a mixed number, you have to convert it into an improper fraction. If you just have fractions, you don't have to worry about that, okay? You got to convert them into improper fractions first. Number two, go ahead and multiply the numerators times each other, and then multiply the denominators times each other. It's that simple. And then three, as always, simplify the fraction or mixed number to lowest terms. Okay? It's that simple. So, for example, let's go ahead and evaluate each. Express answers in simplest fraction or mixed number form. Okay. When we're multiplying fractions, it's literally the numerator times the numerator. Okay, if you have three fractions, then it's all three of the numerators multiplied together. You're just going to multiply across on the numerators, divided by multiply across the denominators. But before you do that, it is always very helpful and wise and very, very efficient to do what is called cross-reducing. Okay, cross-reducing. This occurs when you're multiplying fractions, not when they're equal to each other, not when they're proportions, but when you're multiplying fractions, you can cross-divide. How so? Well, you got to know your number facts. 6 goes into 6. Oh, sorry about that. 6 goes into 6 one time. 6 goes into 18 3 times. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 8 2 times. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Mr. Morrow, what if I don't do that? What if I don't reduce? Will I get it wrong? Well, it depends. If you go ahead and multiply all the numerators across and then multiply all the denominators across, you're going to get the right answer, but it won't be simplest form. It won't be reduced. So if you do go ahead and multiply across, you're just going to have to remember to reduce at the very end. So for example, if I didn't cross reduce, 6 times 4 is 24. And 8 times 18 is 144, okay? I know for sure that 12 goes into both of these. So I can divide 12 to both top and bottom, giving me 2 twelfths, which then I can divide again by a 2 over 2 to both numerator and denominator, and that gives me 1/6. Okay? Number 2, 3/5 times 2/3. Well, I could go ahead and say, oh, this is 3 times 2 is 6, over 5 times 3 is 15, and then I can reduce it, giving me 2/5, or from the get-go, 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 3 one time, and I have 2/5 as my answer. Undoubtedly, whenever you cross-reduce, life is a lot easier. Okay, number 3. Caution, caution, warning, please, caution. So mixed numbers. You must convert mixed numbers into improper fractions first. So this is 7 times 1 is 7 plus 4. That's going to be 11/7 times 5 times 2 is 10 plus 4 is 14/5. So now 7 goes into 7 one time, 7 goes into 14 2 times. 11 times 2 is 22. 1 times 5 is 5. And I have to turn this into a simplified mixed number. 5 goes into 22 4 times with 2/5 remaining. And that is my simplified mixed number answer. 3/8 times 1/4. You're out of luck here. There's nothing I can cross reduce. So numerator times numerator. 3 times 1 is 3. Denominator times denominator is 32. 8 times 4 is 32, sorry here. And you cannot reduce that any further. And last but not least, Dividing fractions and or mixed numbers. Okay, dividing fractions or mixed numbers is very simple as well. But please remember, you must convert any mixed numbers to improper fractions first. Okay? So convert the fractions or mixed numbers being multiplied into improper fractions if needed. Number 2, stay, change, flip. Okay, what does that mean? Stay, change, flip. Well, what happens is the first fraction stays the same. Okay? You're going to change division to multiplication. So that's my change. You changed division to multiplication. And then the second fraction flips. You flip it to its reciprocal. So stay, change, flip. It's like a little song. Stay, change, flip. Stay, change, flip. Remember that. Stay, change, flip. The first fraction always stays. You change division to multiplication, and the second fraction flips. Okay. Number 3, multiply the numerators times each other and multiply the denominators times each other. Because at this point, once you've done your stay, change, flip, you are now multiplying fractions. So you just use the rules of multiplying fractions, which is multiply the numerators together, and then multiply the denominators together, and then, of course, simplify the fraction or mixed number to lowest terms. So, example 5, evaluate each. Express answers in simplest fraction or mixed number form. Well, I got 5/8 divided by 3/10. Stay. So first fraction stays. Change. Changes from division to multiplication. Flip. Second fraction flips. Okay. I can cross reduce here. I can 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Now I multiply. Numerators times numerators, denominators times denominators. 5 times 5 is 25. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 goes into 25 2 times with 1 left over. 2 and 1/12 is my answer. Number 2, warning, 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 caution. Please convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions first. Do not change the division sign yet. Just convert, please. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7/3. Divided by 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3 is 7/4. Now, stay. First fraction stays the same. Change. Division changes to multiplication. Flip. Second fraction flips. 7 goes into 7 1 time. 7 goes into 7 1 time. I'm left with 1 times 4, numerator times numerator is 4, 3 times 1, denominator times denominator is 3, and that equals 1 1/3. Number 3, 3 2/5 divided by 4. Please, caution, you have mixed numbers. You must convert them into improper fractions first. So 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2 is 17/5. Divided by 4/1. Remember, there's an invisible 1 there. So now I'm going to stay. First fraction stays the same. I'm going to change from division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip my second fraction. Stay, change, flip. So now numerator times numerator is 17. Denominator times denominator is 20. 17/20 is my answer. I cannot reduce that any further. And then how about 4/3 divided by 4? Well, I've got 4/3, which is an improper fraction already, so I don't have to convert it because it's already in fraction form. Whenever you have to convert it is when you have a mixed number. So that stays 4/3. Change from division to multiplication. And remember, this is a 4/1, and that flips. Stay, change, flip. The 4's cancel. 1 times 1 is 1, numerators multiplied together, and 3 times 1, denominators multiplied together, is 3, and I've got 1/3. And that is it. Those are the fraction operations. I hope you learned a lot. Hope you got a lot out of it. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day and see you soon. Bye-bye.